Hi folks, welcome to Firm. I'm Mark Merrill. Is it going to be U.S. socialism or are we going to become an anarchy state, folks? Eesh. Hope not. Either way. On today's episode, or today's program, folks, we're going to be talking about many subjects. But we're going to try and put it in a encapsulated presentation. As you can see, first off, we're going to be going over some information from the monthly publication IMPRIMIS through Hillsdale College on national conservatism, freedom conservatism, and Americanism. Wow! All together in one. I don't think the deflectocrats could do that in 1 week, the way they're going. So we'll have that review, folks. Also, we're going to go to Prager University, and PragerU for short, actually, the latest newsletter from their CEO, Marissa Street, and, of course, founder and current president, Dennis Prager. And the latest from Thomas College on their summer catalog. It highlights building connections to success under professional and career development with a first-generation college student from Windham, Maine, through a bank-sponsored management trainee program. But there's more to it than that, folks. Thanks for joining us. On the IMPRIMIS presentation, the monthly segment that they send in, magazine, actually. See, just like that. We just decided to make sure that you could see exactly what we're talking about. Like we always like to do here on Firm, folks. Inform the general public so they know exactly what they're getting and where to get it. It'll be in the comments as well. First of all, we have, as you can see his picture down below, folks, is a John Fonte, a senior fellow and director of the Center for American Common Culture at the Hudson Institute. He's written numerous publications, including Foreign Affairs, Commentary, National Review, The National Interest, and the Claremont Review of Books, as far as places where his writings have shown up over the years. He has a BA and MA in history from the University of Arizona and his PhD in world history from the University of Chicago. And he's also the author of Sovereignty or Submission: Will Americans Rule Themselves or Be Ruled by Others? The National Conservative Statement, as we're taking a few segments from it here, folks, the Conservative Statement of Principles recognizes that progressives have already achieved dominance in American universities, K through 12 education, the media, Fortune 500 corporations, the entertainment industry, big tech, big philanthropy, big law, the administrative state, and many of state and local bureaucracies, and, as if it doesn't get worse, folks, the leadership of the military intelligence agencies. The statement, though, suggests and rejects a strictly conservative approach of defending the status quo, calling rather for a counter-revolutionary sensibility. Well, there's already a revolution going on, folks. Let's hope we don't have to enact the Second Amendment for the general population. Hope not. The statement, according to Mr. Fonte, or I should say Professor Fonte, it decries with alarm that the traditional beliefs, institutions, and liberties that we love have been progressively undermined and overthrown. It calls for a restoration of the virtues in patriotism, courage, honor, and loyalty, religion and wisdom, congregation and family, and man and woman as a unit. Couldn't agree more. The policies of NatCon began to emerge during the Trump administration. The National Security Strategy document of 2017 emphasized strengthening American sovereignty and realistic national interests rather than adherence to international institutions and global rules. Oh, well, you know, we have to become a global society. How many years has it been for that? One more thing that's very important, though, folks, here is that in the closing days of the Trump administration in 2020, heading into 2021, the White House released a report of the 1776 Commission. We may recall that or not. It was chaired by another signatory, Hillsdale President Larry Arnn. It directly repudiated the New York Times 1619 Project, offering a patriotic and historically accurate civic education framework consistent with America's founding principles. Pretty much take that and shove it in the Great Lakes. It's garbage. And an Indiana Congressman, Jim Banks, founded the Anti-Woke Caucus. So things have been moving along here over the last few years here, folks. And glad to say Hillsdale College is at the forefront, getting our country back on track and taking it away from progressives and the left-wing nut radicals, as we call them here at Firm. The caucus introduced amendments eliminating diversity, equity, and inclusion, the DEI, funding in the military and elsewhere. And at the state level, more than 30 bills have been introduced in 25 states, folks, prohibiting, restricting, and defunding DEI in public colleges. Some of this information has been in the news. And to date, as we speak in August of 2024, 10 bills have been signed into law, and Governor Ron DeSantis of Florida signed legislation that prohibits classroom instruction on sex orientation and gender identity from kindergarten through third grade. So there's that, folks. And one last thing as we move along here with a lot of information all at once, but we'll make sure that you have connections and links on this podcast. This gentleman, John Fonte, says the conflict, in the little block right here, you probably can't read it, but we have it right here. The conflict today is not simply a normal policy argument between conservatives and progressives. It is over the future of the historic American nation, both its creed and its culture. Therefore, he says, those who affirm the American nation, whether they are NatCons, free cons, or patriotic liberals, should be called Americanists. Those who find our inheritance deeply problematic and seek a revolutionary transformation of the American regime should logically be called transformationists. Oh, I like that one. Yeah. You better be in the right way, folks. Now, as we said, moving along to PragerU. You see before you here Marissa Street, the CEO of PragerU, and the founder and current president, Dennis Prager. In the latest newsletter here, folks, Ms. Street starts it off by asking, have you been called any names like anti-Semitic, racist, xenophobic, climate denier, or transphobic lately? She says the left dangerously twists words to attack opponents by robbing them of their true meaning. In June of 2024, Democrats in Louisiana tried to pass a bill to ban PragerU. The claim was that our content, says Ms. Street, is discriminatory and anti-Semitic. The resolution, H.R. 323, was to urge and request the Louisiana Department of Education and State Board of Education and Secondary Education to prohibit the use of edutainment children's videos are discriminatory and anti-Semitic as educational tools in the classrooms. Are you kidding me? They sound like they're talking about themselves. Louisiana was the first state to adopt new rigorous social studies standards that teach students about American exceptionalism in our quest for a more perfect union. The partnership with PragerU has begun to provide teachers with additional resources to help bring our freedom framework to life. That's Superintendent of Education in Louisiana, Dr. Cade Brumley. But the left, you see, just doesn't want to stop. They want to keep being negative Nellies and keep pushing the threats. And of course, when it comes to violence, of course, you see, folks, what they do is they just shell out their big money from their networks or their big newspapers to have Antifa or BLM show up, or Soros hired thugs dressed in black, you can't miss them, do their dirty work. And not only against people like you folks, but against police. And even riot squad and SWAT team police, they don't care. They're desperate. Joy Reid of the Reid blog, Outblog. Fuck. Excuse, that's Joy Reid's Read Out blog, by the way. My correction, folks. On MSNBC, propaganda outlet PragerU claims it has expanded its reach into Louisiana schools, putting its disturbing influence in the spotlight again. Daily Kos, Louisiana Superintendent of Education Brumley, announced that public schools will be allowed to use unaccredited, this publication says, right-wing nonprofit PragerU edutainment. Prager's billionaire-backed Islamophobic, homophobic, climate denial, racist, ultimate revisionist content was born out of the repugnant minds of right-wing radio show host Dennis Prager and screenwriter Alan Istrin. And CARE, the Council on American Islamic Relations, said Prager was a history of spreading propaganda and Islamophobia. Well, Mr. Prager and Ms. Street said they fought back. And they set the record straight. The truth is, Dennis Prager is a religious Jew and was appointed by President George W. Bush to the U.S. Holocaust Memorial Council, among countless other accolades. PragerU CEO Marissa Street moved to Israel at a young age and served in the Israel Defense Forces, who are now fighting for their existence against Hezbollah and Hamas. How's them apples? Your left-wing radical rear-end beating cockroaches, for lack of a better term. One thing to keep in mind, though, folks, is to make sure that you make donations on a regular basis to PragerU, which is a nonprofit. At least the left had that part right. Countless videos give a choice to people who have been unfairly discriminated against by the left. PragerU videos feature accomplished black leaders and scholars like Larry Elder and Carol Swain, and have launched the careers of Gen Z personalities including Amala Ekpanobi and Xavier DeRusso, who also happen to be black, unlike Kamala Harris. Everybody clear on that? Unlike Kamala Harris, who's Indian and Jamaican from both her parents. Let's set that record straight. Many Prager videos give a voice to Muslims finding common ground with Christians and Jews. Climate change has become a religion of the progressive left. Prager offers 80 or more videos, folks, on the topic of energy, offering fact-based, truthful information, and some of the world's leading atmospheric physicists, including MIT's Richard Lindzen and Princeton's Will Happer, are featured presenters. Blows you guys out of the water, doesn't it? And one more. PragerU videos often feature immigrants, including those who fled communist countries seeking a better life in America. That's just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to Prager University, folks. We'll give you a link to them at the end of the program as well. Now, as we wrap up today's program, folks, the last one we have here, as we said at the outset, was about this young lady you see before you, who is a recent graduate of Thomas College, a business school in Waterville, Maine. She was studying under the Building Connections to Success through the Professional and Career Development program sponsored by Bangor Savings Bank. And she's a first-generation college student. She's in the management trainee program. But one thing needs to be pointed out here, folks, and it kind of disturbs me, which is why we have DEI, you notice at the bottom of her picture. She's certainly looks like she's worked hard, and it does say in the article there that she did work very hard to attain her degree. She successfully landed a spot in the Savings Bank's management trainee program. Over 100 candidates applied, 65 interviews, including 12 internal candidates and 13 final interviews. She was one of the 4 selected. But at Thomas College, she was Student Senate President, part of the President's Innovation Challenge, and a Thomas Scholar. Tops in academics. Good for you, Brooke. The Professional and Career Development program helped her to land this opportunity. She was also able, folks, to connect with Senior Vice President and Director of Talent, Diversity, and Inclusion for Bangor Savings Bank, David Pease. Right there. That's him. Bugger. She met him through the interview process, which began on Thomas College campus. He called her a great communicator, critical thinker, collaborative, and caring human. He says he knows he's going to have an excellent career path for Brooke Phillips, by the way. And the management trainee program at Bangor Savings will provide her the experience, opportunities, and visibility to do it in an accelerated way. But folks, catching on already? It's pretty sad, isn't it? This man is not who he portends to be. I'm not saying pretend. He's pushing. Still, it's his title as Senior Vice President and Director of Talent, Diversity, and Inclusion for the bank. As we've said before, folks, we can't have this in our country. And we hope that Brooke will become a very good and steady and honest and trustworthy, constitutional upholding young lady. As we emphasize as we close the program on this particular topic, as well as the others. Shouldn't DEI stand for destructive electives to indoctrination instead of diversity, equity, and inclusion? You be the big deciders of that, folks. As always, check in on us all the time, folks. On rumble.com/fairnessmedia1, Twitter, YouTube, and our email all the time, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, at fairnessinreportingmedia@gmail.com. Mark Merrill here. In the meantime, stay safe, and as always, please, peace to everyone.